It is showtime, everybody. It is Tuesday night, which means one thing and one thing only. It means the Fantasy Football Buzz podcast is here. We have with us, as always, Cyclop right here on my left, right? Oh, it depends if you're looking at me. And then if 2020 decides that he wants to join us tonight, he'll probably be below us, but we'll introduce him at that point. But tonight, we have a very interesting show. We'll get into that in a second. Let's first say hello to my partner, Brad. How are you tonight, Cyclop?
I'm doing good, Commish. Man, what a weekend, as you know, I was out at the Dolphins-Raiders game.
And how was the stadium, by the way? I understand, Vegas and all. How was the stadium itself?
The stadium was pretty cool. I mean, it wasn't
Was it worth the $40 billion that they put into
it to them. It was beautiful. Like the screens, the visual, everything visual in the stadium was amazing. Getting around was fairly easy. It was nice. They had a lot of cool things in there. I don't know if it was, the best stadium I've been to, but it was an excellent for watching the game and being involved in the game.
So, yeah. All right. Too bad the game. I mean, the game itself was good. It just needed a better ending.
Agreed. Yeah, and like people have asked me, over the past day or two, how was the game? I'm like, obviously it was a good game. You saw the score, the ending of it. It was, in a way, I was happy that I didn't want to leave in the middle of the third quarter, right? Because everything on paper was going to show that it was probably going to be a blowout.
Right.
But they were in the game. They obviously came back and tied it, and it went to overtime. So we got every bit of value out of being there. So that was cool.
Oh, that's good. All right. Yeah. So, but fantasy wise,
yeah,
we're going to talk about tonight a couple of things. First of all, we're going to get into the waivers like we do every Tuesday night. We're going to help you understand who to pick up, who to drop, which is also very important because usually, right, leagues do their waiver pickups tonight after midnight. So hopefully we can guide you in the right direction, go from there. We're also going to talk about some of the disappointments. Who is sitting on your roster that you're just grinding your teeth at because every time you look at it and you realize where you drafted them, you are killing yourself for doing it. They are on there. They're on my roster. They're on your roster. Maybe not your roster, but they're on a lot of rosters. So we'll get into that.
Can we also talk a little bit about trades tonight?
Yeah, of course.
And we can get into that later, but I'd like to talk a little bit about that at some point.
Are you going to bitch because I didn't accept your offer? But it was a very good offer.
No.
Okay, all right.
No. That is not what I was going to do. I was not going to brout about that.
But if you happen to have a trade offer while we're on the air, maybe we can discuss it, walk through the process, and maybe, we'll do something. We'll do a deal. But that'll probably be boring for everybody but us. But in the meantime, we are here to answer your fantasy football questions. Just give us a call. The number's right there at the bottom of the screen, 772-800-BUZZ, or in the comments section in YouTube Live or Facebook Live. Go ahead and put your questions. Who to pick up, who to drop, who are you going to start next week? Also, let us know who's the disappointment on your roster. You know what? I kind of want to get into that right away. Okay?
We can do that.
Because I'm still grinding my teeth at A.J. Brown. Now, we all thought, based on last year, that a lot of people were a little down on A.J. Brown, but the bottom line is he was going to be the number one with Julio Jones being the number two. We don't know. It may eventually be that. But right now...
Yeah, but now he's hurt on top of
Now he's hurt on top of the fact because he wasn't hurt week one and he didn't perform. Now he's hurt and he's not performing. A.J. Brown... I mean, obviously, I'm not dropping him. And if anybody has A.J. Brown out there, we're not telling you to drop him. But he has just been a disappointment. And it's pissing me off sitting on my roster. Who do you have on your roster, Brad, or any of your rosters that is somebody that's disappointing you?
So, it's hard to say he's a disappointment. But Deandre Hopkins, where I drafted him.
That's a disappointment.
He had 6 for 83, 4 for 54, and 3 for 21. His numbers are going down.
And
He
those
did average 2.
targets are much lower than
Well,
last year.
that's the problem. 8, 4, and 6 targets. He should be up in the 10 to 12 range. And that, to me, is a disappointment on my roster.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that for me, for where he was drafted, it's not the, horrible, but it's certainly not what you would want out of DeAndre Hopkins.
Right.
So that's been a tough one for me.
Yeah, but you're still doing well even without him. So, right? I mean,
the funny thing is, so in our league, right, and that's what one of the things we can go by is, I'm 1-2 in our league, and in our division, which is 5 teams on the other and 5 teams. There's 2 teams that are 2-1. I'm 1-2, and another 1-2, and I think 0-3. And I have the highest chance of going to the playoffs at the moment in our division. I was looking at it, I'm like, that's interesting. The system does it.
Yeah.
So
that is interesting. So, but I want to know. Oh, we already have a comment, but I want to know who your disappointment is. Who did not disappoint the Raiders. Oh, okay, we know who that is.
But yeah, that's going to be.
That's funny because I didn't see any comments from him last year when we kicked their ass. So that's fine. Go ahead, say that the Raiders won on a bad no call offensive pass interference. That's fine. That's all right. We all know that was pass interference, but he wants to live in La La Land. That's fine. Yeah. In fact, Robbie, I'm curious how Robbie became a Raiders fan. So if he wants to let us know instead of just talking about the Raiders, I'm curious how he became a Raiders fan. Would love to hear about that. But if anybody has a disappointment on their roster, put it in the comments section. Let us know. You can give us a call, 772-800-BUZZ. Am I bitter? No. Did I expect to lose? Probably, but I'm not bitter. I'm bitter about the offensive pass interference no call, not about the loss, because, considering we were down to nothing, that's not a problem. I have no problem with that.
The fact that they were in the game, was good. So, yeah, he hated Jeff and everything he loved. So I guess his older brother was a Dolphin fan, and so he went completely opposite.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. Well, Kenneth, it looks like he might have tried to call in. I didn't hear anything ring. I wasn't able to get it. So he went ahead and he put his question of the night in the comment section. The question of the night is, with the quarter mark of the season being next week, and I can't believe it's already quarter of the mark, who do you consider your top team or teams so far? So Super Bowl was tomorrow. Who would you put your money on, Brad?
Me, the Rams, and probably the Chargers.
I want to see the Chargers play a real team. I mean, I guess you could say Pittsburgh is a real team, but not this year.
Didn't the Chargers just beat Kansas City?
Oh, you're right. Okay, I take that back. You're right. I take that back. You're absolutely right. So, but you think the Chargers are the class of the AFC right now?
I mean, so far, yeah, they're 2-1. Obviously, they lost, but
Robbie will tell you the Raiders are 3-0.
Yeah, but I understand that, but they need to play a real team. So
what about Buffalo though?
Buffalo started off slow, but they're figuring it out. Again, like we said last year, like we said this year, like Aaron Rodgers said, it is a
marathon.
Hang on, Keith. Well, it's like that first week is like a preseason game because these guys aren't playing, right? So, Josh Allen, and getting the timing and everything, sometimes it takes some of that gameplay to get into it. Hang on one second. This is 2020.
All right. So if anybody out there has a disappointment, somebody on their team that they're very upset about, let us know. Put it in the comment section or give us a call. Kenneth, we think if you have an answer to Kenneth's question, who do you think is the class of the league right now? I mean, it's obvious to say that there's several undefeated teams right now, although a lot less than what we normally see at this point. But are the Carolina Panthers for real? 4-6-5. Are they going to win the NFC South? Because Tampa Bay ended up losing this past week, so that put Carolina ahead of them. What about Cincinnati is surprisingly leading the AFC North based on so right now, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But that's a good question, Kenneth, and we appreciate you asking us the question of the week tonight. In the meantime, again, give us a call, 772-800-BUZZ, or comment in YouTube Live or Facebook Live, and we're going to jump in to our waivers. And we're going to start with the quarterback waivers, the pickups for this week. Now, at this point, right, when we're doing these pickups and drops, it's really about streaming, right, Brad? I mean, we're not looking where there's not going to be guys on there that you say, oh, these are the guys for the rest of the season are going to all of a sudden get you a lot of points. And unless you're talking about somebody who's substituting for somebody who's out for the year or whatever the case may be.
Right. Or, somebody got injured. There was some of that early, right? Weeks 1 and 2, but this week really didn't happen.
Right.
So that's but yes.
Oh, look who joined us.
Internet down.
Don't you live in a goofy part of town? Why do they let the internet down in your area?
That's what happens when you live in a cabin out in the middle of East BF, Iowa. But hey, you know what? You're still welcome on the show, regardless of where you live. Welcome 2020. How's it going other than you stressing out because of your internet issues?
So I'm more stressed out because of my fantasy issues and my Miami Dolphins, but the internet, yes, was just the cherry on top of the Sunday, but I am good. Glad to be here. A little weird doing it from the phone, but we're going to make it work, right?
So don't listen to the first 5 minutes of the show because we talked about you a lot, but don't worry about it. And your team.
I'm sure you did.
All right. So what we're doing right now is we're going to get into the waiver wire. We're going to talk about quarterbacks right now to pick up. And we're talking about the fact that at this point, you're looking at streamers. So even though there's a bunch of quarterbacks that you can pick up, we're going to talk about the ones that will have an effect on week 4. Who are the guys who give you the best chance of winning this week if you need somebody? So I'm going to start off by saying that I can't believe I'm saying this. For hell hath frozen over and pigs are flying, but Sam Darnold, guys. The truth is,
absolutely. Definitely.
Carolina's 3-0, right? They're starting the season 3-0, and Sam Darnold has 2 consecutive 300-plus passing games, 300-yard passing games. And although he didn't throw any touchdown passes on Thursday, he still got good points. He was able to run 2 in on his own. So even though he wasn't throwing touchdowns, he was running touchdowns. And he actually finished week 3 ahead of Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson from a fantasy standpoint.
Amazing.
Commish, I'll tell you, I think with Sam Darnold, it's not so much the additions into who he got, it's to who he doesn't have anymore, and that's Adam Gase. And man, was that the difference maker in his career.
It's not just Adam Gase, it's the whole Jets organization.
Yeah, I'm not ready to crown Sam Darnold as a good quarterback yet, or say that it's just because he doesn't have Adam Gase. And Keith, if you can put the phone even closer, we'd really appreciate it because that way we can see what's up your nose.
Listen, do you know my vision?
That's true. You are called 2020 for a reason. No. Oh, yeah, that's better.
Put this off an iPhone. What do you want from me?
Well, back to Sam Darnold. He's playing against the Cowboys this coming week, right? And the Cowboys are pretty generous in the air. We saw last night, right? Jalen Hurts, 326 yards and 2 touchdowns. So if you're looking for a super flex or you're looking for a streaming quarterback, Darnold's heading in the right direction, guys. And he's available in 78% of leagues. So if you need somebody, Sam Darnold.
Well, the other interesting point about that game, Carolina's defense has been stellar, but so is the Cowboys' offense. So is something going to give there, and then they're going to have to either be playing catch up or try to get ahead a lot because that the Cowboys' offense can score. So that's going to be very interesting to see how he does in that situation.
One interesting question mark to see: does the loss of McCaffrey have an impact on Darnold? It didn't so much in this game. I know they have Chuba. Chuba is no Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey will take those 8 or 9 receptions every week and get another 100 yards and a touchdown for the quarterback. So that remains to be seen as well. But I do like Darnold. I like him out of college, and he's got a lot of weapons around him.
I agree. Okay, so for my second quarterback, guys, here's a trivia question. Which quarterback only has 2 starts in his career but still did better last week than Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson?
2 starts in his career?
Yeah.
Heineke?
Yeah, Heineke. You're
Yeah,
absolutely
Heineke,
right.
yeah.
And then, he's not like lighting the league on fire. He only threw for 212 yards, but he had 2 touchdowns, ran for 21 yards, ran in another touchdown. And this week, who does he play? The team I tell you to start against every week. It's Atlanta. He plays against Atlanta, who has given up the second most amount of fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks across the first 3 games of the season, and probably even more if you want to go back last year as well. So let me make this clear, though, guys. He's not an every week starter. This is not a guy I'm telling you pick up, stash on your roster. There's a reason he's available in 94% of your leagues right now, because he's really not necessarily useful for the rest of the year. But if you need somebody for this week and Darnold's not available and your regular starter is hurt or not available, you can go with Heineke and not be too concerned. The other quarterback I have is Jimmy G. Right? Mr. Garoppolo, people are sitting back right now, and they're waiting for Trey Lance to take over. So Garoppolo's just kind of been hanging out on that waiver wire in a lot of leagues. But in the meantime, all he's doing, guys, is putting up points. He had 21 points in the first 2 weeks. He regressed a bit last week. He only had 17 points. But this week they play Seattle, which means shootout, right? And with the issues that 2020 is well aware of in the San Francisco backfield, expect Jimmy to throw and expect him to throw a lot. Last week he had 40 attempts, and I expect the same thing this year. So those are my 3 quarterbacks. The guys that I recommend to drop because of those picking up to make room for those quarterbacks are not quarterbacks, because most likely you don't have a bad quarterback sitting on your roster at this point.
Right.
So I don't want to get into who I should think you should drop until after you start talking about those positions, and then I can get into that. Because look, there's a lot of people I'd love to pick up out there, but I don't know who to drop, right? Because you have good guys on your roster, and you're not sure, well, is this guy worth keeping or worth dropping? So that's another question that people might have out there to give us a call or a comment. Let us know who's on your roster, who you're thinking about picking up, who you might, and we can maybe help you out, let you know who to drop. Let's go to running backs, guys.
All right. So in the running back field this week, there's not a whole lot. So I'm going to bring up a couple guys.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. I forgot Kenneth is on the phone. Kenneth, how are you?
Okay. I'm good. The reason why I was calling is I picked up a wide receiver by the name of Marvin Jones Jr. Plays with Jacksonville.
Right.
Is that a wise move?
Yeah, I'm surprised he was available in your league.
It's a 12-team PPR.
Yeah, I have Marvin Jones in one of my leagues, and I'm actually starting him this week. So,
Okay. So, are you saying it's a wise move to start him this coming week?
Yeah, I think this would be a good week to start him. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was planning on starting him, but I wasn't for sure if it was a wise move. That's why I called in.
Yeah, he's the target leader on that team. I mean, Trevor Lawrence has not looked great, but they are throwing a lot, and they're coming from behind consistently. So very, very good guy to be starting.
Okay. So I'm going to get into my first running back here, okay? And this guy, even though he was drafted a lot, some people have already dropped him. So he is actually out there on a lot of waivers, is Michael Carter in New York. No, he's not available, or no, don't pick him up.
This is not my segment.
Well, here's the only reason. I know they're awful. The Jets are awful. Are they going to get a little bit better? Yes. The reason I'm saying it to possibly pick him up and stash him for a few weeks, or at least a week. Now, he hasn't done much. We know that. He plays the Titans this week. They're pretty good against the rush. But the 2 weeks after that, they have the Falcons, who are 19th against the rush. Then they have a bye, and then they have the Patriots, who are 23rd against the rush. And 2 weeks after that, the Colts. So he's going to get some favorable matchups. So if you need him to stream as a bye week fill-in or something, if he's available, try to get him and stash him on your roster. I'm not advocating for him at this moment, but I'm saying he might become a potential decent start a couple weeks down the road. That's all I'm going to talk about a Jet. That's it. No more. Crickets. Another guy.
I think we all just threw up in our mouth. That's why.
Yeah, I did too. But it's just anyway. Look. Sam Darnold was brought up. He has Jet pedigree. Anyway, so
he has Jet pedigree, but
he's not on the Jets.
There's a big difference
He's
between
not
the way
on
Carter's
Jets, right.
played in the first 3 weeks and the way that Sam Darnold has played in the first 3 weeks. It's not just that he's a Jet. It's, I know that Carter was probably drafted at the end of many drafts.
Yeah.
And
he was taken in the middle of a lot of drafts.
That's true. And people were not knowing whether or not Tevin Coleman was going to start or who was going to be the starter there. But I don't think it really even matters at this point.
Well,
especially with Becton out.
Anyway, the biggest pickup this week is probably going to be Peyton Barber, right? He looked good. He was running strong. Now, I know Josh Jacobs will be back. I don't know if it'll be this week or next week. What?
Nothing. I mean, I'm asking, do you recommend? You mentioned this is a guy a lot of people are going to pick up. I agree with that.
Okay.
The question I have for you is, should you pick him up?
The way he looked, I don't know that he's not going to split time with Josh Jacobs when he comes back. Jacobs was already splitting time, right? Drake is now a little bit in the doghouse because of his fumble and whatnot, or his missed. No, I think it was a missed assignment, right? It wasn't a fumble.
Right.
A couple missed assignments coming.
Drake has clearly become the catching back, the change of pace, third down.
But how many catches Barber had the other day?
No, I'm agreeing with you. What I'm saying is I think that if there is a timeshare that you're going to see Barber and Jake. I picked up Barber in 3 leagues last week and debated starting him in 2 just because I saw the matchup. Miami is a very leaky run defense, and what he did is he proved himself. Jacobs he's often hurt. He's
right.
Meh.
And he does right exactly. He some games he goes 10 rushes for 18 yards.
Right.
We saw him get off.
Line.
Here he's got the Chargers and the Bears coming up the next 2 weeks. Number 31 and number 26 against the run so far. So he's got favorable matchups. So if he's out there in your leagues, pick him up. We all know.
And in a game against the Bears with that atrocious offense and how good the Raiders have looked, I could see that a game that can get away from the Bears quick, and it could be a run, just run it out in the third and fourth quarter with a healthy Peyton Barber. I happen to agree with you. I saw that as well and grabbed him in 3 leagues. Yep.
So my next running back, the news came out that the Colts and Marlon Mack have agreed to look for a trade. Now, it might not happen this week or next week or the week after. He might sit inactive for a few weeks, but there are certainly, as we know, enough teams desperately looking for running backs, right? Baltimore just signed a guy that was on their practice squad today and that they cut and they brought him back on their practice squad. So now like Le'Veon Bell and I can't think of his name at the moment are both on their practice squad behind. I think they're just assuming that there's going to be more running backs hurt because that's what happens in Baltimore and San Francisco, right? So if you can pick up Marlon Mack, if you have a stash spot, if you have a place to stash him, I would do that. I still think he's got a lot of value and a lot of, legs in this league. I mean, it's only what, his 4th year?
Yeah.
So, I think once he does get traded, he will have value because he's going to be going to a team that's going to need someone.
And a team that's going to have Rashad Bateman back. I don't know if you're going to talk about that when you talk about wide receivers, but
right.
But that's right. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No. So those are my 3, I'm looking at, they did not put McCaffrey on IR. So we know, Chuba is the guy there. Royce Freeman got a few carries. I'm not suggesting pick him up, but if there was some type of injury, Royce Freeman is the next guy up at this point. So that, again, if you're looking for a super stash, I guess you want to call it, maybe that's someone to look at. And then we know what a mess right now the New England running back situation is with White hurt, with
Right.
them not having a lot of confidence for some reason right now in Harris, but I think he'll get an opportunity. And then there's Stevenson and another guy there. So, but I don't really see any of those guys as a huge value. Brandon.
So now the question comes: if somebody wants to pick up one of these guys that you're talking about, my personal recommendation. Go ahead.
Oh no, we have a question from Anthony here, so I'm going to throw it up here. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's a question. Beckham had a 29% target share in his first game back without Jarvis Landry. Do you guys think he will be a top 30 wide receiver in week 4 against the Vikings? A top 30. I mean, I don't see why. I mean,
I would give them top 30. I think that's fair.
Yeah,
especially when you talk about how explosive the Vikings are.
Right.
And they're not going to be able to just hand the ball off 35 times like they like to in Cleveland. They're going to have to put up some points to keep up with that team. So I see OBJ getting targeted 8, 9, 10 times to keep up with the pace of that game.
Yeah, so he's going to be matched up against Breland, who is actually one of their better defenders. I'm not necessarily saying that he's not going to have a good game. I think at this point, especially until Landry gets back, if you have Beckham, I would start Beckham. I don't have a problem starting Beckham. The bigger question is that offense, right? Are you going to see a continued in fact, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm curious what the run versus pass was, the ratio with the Browns. But as we know, they're one of the heaviest running team in the NFL. And that's the only thing negative about it. But other than that, I think as time goes by, and even this week, even with being matched up with Breland, I'm okay with that. Yeah, I think he would be in the top 30.
I would agree with that. I would even have him potentially even closer to 20, with it being against the Vikings.
Okay, now I disagree with you. And I can't find my dollar. There it is. I don't think this is dollar worthy, but yeah, I think he'll be in top 30. I don't know if he'll be in top 20 though. But good question, Anthony. We appreciate it. So back to what I was saying was that the question is, who do we drop, right, to get one of these running backs? I'm advocating that it's time to drop any of your Houston Texan running backs. If you've got David Johnson on there for some reason, you got Phillip Lindsay on there for some reason, Mark Ingram for some reason, look, they're going to make David Mills throw the ball, right? And until he can prove that he can do that, that backfield is going to be it's crazy. So if you have any of those guys, it's time to drop them. I was actually going to come up here and say same thing about the Jets backfield, but you advocated picking up Carter. But I think that if you need somebody this week and you're going to stream somebody, and you're going to get Peyton Barber, or whoever else you might want to get, I think it's okay to drop any of your Jet running backs to get them. Same thing with the Houston Texan running backs.
I got to tell you, and I hate saying this, but unless something changes, you can make the same argument about the Miami Dolphins running backs. It's a 3-headed monster over there. They're not running away. I love Myles Gaskin.
It's 2-headed. Where do you get 3?
Well, Ahmed has not been playing.
Ahmed had 0 touches this past week.
I know. So it's been Brown and Myles Gaskin. So it's a 2-headed monster over there. And Brown had that nice run. But I mean, you can't. Neither.
Wait, which one? The one on first down, second down, or third down that they couldn't score from the 1-yard line?
Exactly. And that's
I know you're talking about the 28-yard run or whatever it was.
But the 24-yard run. Correct. He couldn't get a first down. He couldn't get in from the goal line twice out of the Wildcat. And I'm not saying that's him. That is the worst offensive line in football. And until they figure that out,
his career for picking him up in free agency, thinking he's going to be some kind of goal line back like they tried to do with Jordan Howard last year. Mm-hmm. When the truth of the matter is Brown wasn't even a goal line back with the Rams, and for them or college, and for them to pick him up for that purpose was wrong. But I digressed. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just saying you can make the same argument. I don't think any of them. They're certainly not startable, Brown or Gaskin.
I'm not dropping Myles Gaskin. You think people should drop Myles Gaskin at this point?
Let's from this point on, from the rest of the season, let's see if this guy falls anywhere near or sniffs anywhere near RB 18 or better. I don't see
18. How do you get to 18? Where did that come from?
because I think about the
Well,
top
then
8
look,
running backs.
if we're going to
Right.
argue, let's talk about the running backs that Brad just mentioned picking up, whether it's Carter, whether it's Barber, Marlon Mack, and you're going to tell me any of those are going to do better than Myles Gaskin this year?
Peyton Barber,
This year?
from what I saw, I would rather have Peyton Barber on my team than Myles Gaskin right now. Absolutely.
All right. Write it down, Brad.
The $1 up. All right. Hold on. We're coming. Gaskin.
And if anybody else wants to get in on this,
By the way,
Gaskin
I think Peyton Barber this week has had more points, fantasy points, than Myles Gaskin has had for the whole season so far.
What?
So
I have to look at that.
Here's Gaskin's numbers.
And Tyler
Here's
Heineke had more points than Kyler Murray. So drop Kyler Murray and pick up Tyler Heineke.
Myles Gaskin is not Kyle Murray. Myles
I
Gaskin
understand
is
that.
running back.
Let me
It's
give
not
you-
what Kyle Murray is the quarterback.
Stop. Let me give you Gaskin's numbers for the first 3 games. Okay. He did break 10 points. All right. Now I'm going by one system here. He got 10.1 points week 1, 6.6 and 8.9. That's 9 attempts for 49, 5 for 25, and 13 for 65 against the Raiders. And he has 12 catches for 57 yards. So he's not exactly lighting it up.
No, he's not. And I'm not suggesting he is. I'm just saying that moving forward, I would never suggest to drop Myles Gaskin and pick up Peyton Barber, because I think in the long run, Gaskin is going to prove to be a much better running back than Peyton Barber as far as fantasy goes.
So, Keith, just so you know, I'm going with you on this one for
Wow.
the rest of the
All
year,
right.
because I'm telling you, I was at that game. Barber looked good.
So good.
I do
And
not.
Peyton Barber looked good in Washington when he was there. He's a good bruising north-south one-cut runner, which Gruden loves. Jacobs doesn't stay healthy, and I think they're going to split that backfield.
Yeah, if he looked good, if he looked like he did against other, if he looks like he did last week, I don't see Josh Jacobs coming back in and getting a full slate of work. That means Barber's going to get.
Did we have any dollar bets from last week?
So we did. You only had one, and it was a non-bet because it was Henderson against CEH, but Henderson did not play.
Henderson didn't play, right?
So Keith.
But wasn't hold on. Wasn't that part of the argument though?
No,
that you got to take him as he is.
No, the question was if he played. Of course,
I did actually. I even wrote down if he plays.
Of course,
but CEH would have outperformed him anyway. So you always eat your dollar.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So
whatever.
let's jump to wide receivers.
Okay.
Who should people pick up this week? We lost him. But
You're
who should
lose me?
No, he's there.
But I'm doing this on my phone.
He just did us a favor.
Yeah, you can hear me though. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So interesting. I hate having to say this, but our first 2 wide receivers that are out there that you're going to want to pick up are Buffalo Bills, starting with Emmanuel Sanders, which surprisingly is available in 68% of leagues, certainly in ESPN. He's not getting a ton of targets, but it's not awful. The guy has over a 3-week period, he does have 20 targets. Last week, it's very efficiently in week 3, he had 5 grabs on those 6 targets. He did get 2 touchdowns, which salvaged it. So I'm not saying he's lighting it up, but he got 8 targets week 1, and he got 6 targets in the last couple of weeks. They're throwing the ball well, or at least a little bit better in Buffalo. Now, Cole Beasley, interesting enough, and he's not quite as available. About 30% of leagues, I'm showing that he's still out there. He has been a target monster. 13 targets in week 3 for 11 grabs, a pedestrian 98 yards. But if you're in a PPR, he lit it up for you. He got you far over 20 points. And in week 1, he had 13 targets with 8 grabs. He's not broken for the yardage yet, but he's actually out targeting Stephon Diggs at this point. So I hate to say it, but those are 2 Buffalo Bills that are out there and available. Man, the Denver Broncos wide receiver core is starting to feel like the San Francisco 49ers running back.
Yeah. I think did we lose him?
Yeah.
I think we lost him. So I'm not sure who he was going to say to pick up, but obviously he was talking about the injury where Patrick is now out for the year, right?
No, not
Oh,
Hamler.
no, excuse me, Hamler. Hamler is out for the year.
Right. So
Right.
Patrick is actually a good
That's who
pickup.
you want to pick up.
And
Right.
I assume that's what he was going to get at.
Yeah, he's available in a lot of leagues. And all he's done through 3 weeks is do 12 for 174, 2 touchdowns, and 13 targets. He's making the most of his targets because he's got the couple touchdowns, but he's got, 11, and 12 points. You get a guy that can fill in, and now his volume should go up because of Hamler. So that could be a really nice pickup.
Yep. All right. So we'll get back to wide receivers when 2020 comes in.
Yes.
Did he also have tight ends?
Yes.
Okay. So let's do this. Let's jump into defenses real quick. We don't have a lot. Defenses are the kind of thing where you can stream them week to week, depending on what's available in your league.
Mm-hmm.
Surprisingly, the Cincinnati Bengals, not just surprising based on their record, but the fact that their defense, week 1, they were the Cincinnati Bengals, right? They gave up 24 points to Minnesota. They only had 3 total points on defense. But then 2 weeks ago, they played against Chicago, right? They got 13 points. Last week, nobody started them. In fact, I bet you against Pittsburgh, I bet you a lot of people in elimination leagues lost this one because they probably picked Pittsburgh to beat Cincinnati in Pittsburgh.
So just so you know, I don't think so because there were so many other easy games to pick that I don't think anyone's picking that game. But I understand that.
Well, Cincinnati, all they did was pick off Big Ben twice, sack him 4 times, only gave up 10 points. And they got, depending on the point system in your league, I know in our league, they would have gotten 15 points. Okay, so we know what the Bengals have done. Well, what happens now? Now they play Jacksonville, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Jacksonville is the 29th ranked offense right now. So if you have an opportunity to pick up the Bengals, that's probably a good stream for this week. Another good stream.
Well, so hold on a second. Not only do they get the Jaguars this week, but then 2 weeks later they get the Lions, who've actually been putting up points. But then 2 weeks later they get the Jets.
Right.
So but they have the Packers and the Ravens in between there. But and for the most part people don't. But as far like you said, as far as the streaming, keep an eye on them for week to week for a streaming defense.
Yeah. So do you think something happened to 2020? Do you think there was some type of nuclear explosion or something that just took them out? Or do you think it was the Myles Gaskin comment that they took away his fantasy football card?
I have other theories, but we won't go into that.
I think he might be back.
Oh, damn. I mean, okay, cool. Awesome.
Let's bring him in. There he is. You were talking about wide receivers for Denver. Were you talking about picking up Patrick?
Yes, Tim Patrick. I'm not sure. Okay. So when I go like this, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
I'm not sure what happened.
Now we can hear you, but then we lost you. Yeah, right. We already went over Tim Patrick. We figured out who you were talking about. So move on to your next one.
Okay, so Tim. All right, so let me go back. So that was Tim Patrick, correct. My next one is the guy that just did some damage to the Miami Dolphins, and that's Las Vegas Raiders, Hunter Renfrow. He's not getting a huge target share. It just went away. Hold on one second.
No, you're fine. We hear you.
It's certainly not bad. 9 targets week 1, 7 week 2, 6 week 3. What I love is his catch rate. 6 targets, 5 grabs. 9 targets, 6 grabs. 7 targets, 5 grabs. And he's getting decent yardage. He did have a touchdown this last week. What I love is they're just airing it out. You guys can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
They are airing it out in Las Vegas. Derek Carr, this is the best version of Derek Carr by far that we've ever seen, and he clearly likes Hunter Renfrow, so he's a nice pickup right there. Another one.
Hunter Renfrow right now has the same amount of points as Stephon Diggs through 3 weeks.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you want to look at it like I look at it like that.
I have to tell you real quick. I was going through some of my notes. I have a computer database going back with all of my start sit recommendations and everything. And I actually found week 4 of 2015 and the recommended starter quarterback to pick up was Derek Carr. So I thought that
of 2015.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I thought that was very interesting. People don't really give him his due.
He does.
He really is a good quarterback. He did have that one run a few years ago, right?
Yeah.
After they beat New England, and everyone thought that was the end of Brady, and but he just never crossed that line. Now I think if he continues the way he's been playing, he is going to be considered.
I'll tell you what, Commish, there's another quarterback that falls in the very same category of not respected, and from an NFL standpoint and from a fantasy standpoint, he does it every year, and that's Kirk Cousins. Every year, this guy puts up decent numbers. He's always in the top 12, top 15 discussion. This year, he's number 5. Same thing. He's just another unheralded, unsung fantasy hero in a lot of ways. Puts up the numbers.
That's because fantasy-wise, he does it. But like last year, he started off really slow. Had some really bad weeks and then picked it up. Right. I think it's just because they don't go to the playoffs and they don't win enough. That's why NFL-wise he's not as respected, and he kind of falls apart in the wrong times. But fantasy-wise, he's good.
I don't see him doing that. I don't know that Minnesota struggles from, and we don't have to get into this conversation, as an NFL team fall on Cousins. That defense has a lot of issues. I think Cousins is a pretty solid NFL player as well. And I happen to love the guy because he puts his heart and soul in the game, and just like Derek Carr, just doesn't get the respect. All right, here's another interesting.
And he's not vaccinated.
And he's exactly. We have a Sammy Watkins regeneration, believe it or not. This guy's available in almost 60% of leagues, and I got to tell you, his numbers aren't fantastic. But what you want to look at here, he's getting the targets. 7 targets last week. 7 targets in week 2, 8 targets in week 1. Unfortunately, he's not producing the catch rate that you'd like, but he had almost 70 yards this week, almost 100 yards week 1. So what you like to see here, he's getting the targets, he's getting some yardage. So if you're hurting a wide receiver and you're in a league, 12 team league, and there's a lot gone, you might want to take a look at him. And here's another guy, a little bit of a reach, and this isn't so much a homer thing, but I like based on the quarterback change, and that's Devonte Parker, who, by the way, through 3 weeks has 23 targets. It hasn't really produced yet from the point of production, but I really believe with Brissett in at quarterback, you're going to see an uptick overall in that passing game. And Brissett is not afraid to throw the contested ball, and that's what Devonte Parker is on this team. He has that contested
ball. Not the other day
he
wasn't.
Well, listen, he had 7 targets, 4 grabs. Yeah. I get it. He had a catch he should have come down with. But again, if you're looking for someone to pick up, and you're a little weak on the waiver wire, Devonte Parker is possibly an option. So that's going to round out wide receivers. Unless you guys have something you want to add, we can now move into tight ends.
No, but can we drop the darling from last week's waiver wire, which was Cephas from Detroit? I think it's time. No, seriously. I mean, because look, we can talk all day about picking up Patrick or Parker or Watkins or whoever, but if you don't know who to drop, look, I'm dropping anybody on my New York Jets offense. And again, this is not about whether or not I like the Jets.
You would drop Corey Davis?
Yes. For Patrick, all day.
For Tim Patrick, with Hamler gone, I would probably do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right.
But Quintez, Cephas, anybody on the Jets offense is not reliable. I mean, you can see what Corey Davis did last week. It's going to continue to be like this week after week.
What do you do? Let me ask you a question. What do you do with people on the Bears offense?
I know. What do you do with Allen Robinson?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's just a matter of time. I think a rookie coming in there for their first game. I don't know. I'm not too concerned. If you have Allen Robinson, I wouldn't be worried about it. I don't know. I'm not too concerned. It affected Montgomery last week, so I don't even know what's going to happen with Montgomery moving forward. Right. And I think I'd like to see just one more week to see what happens. But I'm not.
Supposedly, there was reports that they brought in 2 other quarterbacks to try out.
Really?
Yeah, I was just reading that earlier. They brought in 2 quarterbacks from one guy. I'm going to go blank on where it was from, but yeah, I saw that earlier.
All right.
Let's see if I can find that real quick. Who it was?
And I got to tell you, I left some names off this list. I left off Marques Callaway, even though he did a little better this week, but he's not really getting targeted. They're not throwing the ball in New Orleans, and he's owned in a lot of leagues anyway. I left off AJ Green, even though he had a great week. Because quite honest, he's like the third or fourth receiver on that team, so I'm not going to go by 1 week. Last week it was Rondell Moore that was the flavor of the week, and now it's AJ Green. It's still DeAndre Hopkins and Krista Kirk's show. So, people have a tendency to overreact on a good week by a player. They also have a tendency to overreact in fantasy when you have players that aren't performing. And we're going to talk about that, who's underperforming for us. And the idea is stay steady, don't panic, and don't go crazy going after players that might just be 1 week wonders.
We know that fantasy football is about overreacting. That's part of the fun.
Yeah.
What about, hey, Keith, what about the guy who's taking snaps away from Robbie Anderson, the rookie Terence Marshall Jr. in Carolina? He caught 4 passes last Thursday night. Anderson only had 1. We see an uptick in his playing and his snaps and his targets. Is Terence Marshall Jr. becoming the guy besides DJ Moore, obviously, that we can rely on in Carolina? Or do we need to give it more time?
I got to tell you, I like Terence Marshall. He's very talented. I just kind of feel from what we've seen over the first 3 weeks, it feels a little bit like Green Bay, where it's Devontae Adams and really nobody else. Lazard's going to get catches. Valdez-Scantling's going to get catches. It really feels like DJ Moore. And I was not in his camp. I really wasn't. Darnold loved Robbie Anderson in New York. I really thought that was going to play over into this season and onto this team. But he alphaed himself out. It is DJ Moore's room. He is the receiver to be had there. I don't think there's enough to go around. I mean, from a fantasy relevant standpoint, maybe. I mean, Terrace is a rookie, so who knows? But right now, other than DJ Moore and when it was Christian McCaffrey, no one else is really getting enough targets and receptions on that team. So I personally wouldn't be. I mean, maybe to pick up and stash, but then again, I love your question, Commish. It's always the good question. You're going to pick them up. Who are you going to drop? And that's the question. I just don't think there's enough targets.
Put him on your roster.
Right. I just feel like it's a similar situation to Green Bay. What the hell is that?
Is that coming from your wife's nightstand?
I was just going to say, I don't want to know what that is.
I don't know, but that didn't sound good. But you know what? We were saved by Noah Drontel. But hold on, let me just see something here.
What you didn't while we're reading that, a wide receiver you didn't bring up is Josh Gordon.
Yes, I know. Yes, and there's a
rightfully reason. So. I understand that, but
dude, that's a great question. Are we going out there and putting a bid out on Josh Gordon? What's the argument against it? If they're throwing to Watkins, obviously Mecole Hardman hasn't been the guy that they were hoping that he would be.
Right.
Who's the guy from Florida? Robinson. He hasn't turned out to be the guy that they were hoping that he would be.
They need somebody. They need somebody because
but
obviously they're taking away Hill.
Yeah, right? But so it's Kelsey. It's Hill. It's Kelsey. The rest of it is being sprinkled between Pringle, Hardman, and Robinson. I honestly,
it's you, Brad.
It's me.
You. Yeah, just muted.
Yeah,
and
I don't know what it is.
All right.
Anyways, I don't.
I do know what it is. Something my computer
Honestly, Brad, right. I don't think we want to. Don't make me get HR. But I don't see Gordon. He has to come in. He's got to learn the playbook. He has no chemistry yet with Mahomes. To me, it's not. Who are you going to drop to pick up Josh Gordon is the question.
Okay, so now we have a question from Noah. I just proposed this trade: Gibson, AJ Brown, and Rob Gronkowski for Eckler and Hawkinson. Which ones do you have, Noah? Let us know. Do you want to say Gibson and Eckler, even in a PPR, are equal? AJ Brown, we talked about earlier. When he gets back on track, he'll be fine. So the question is the difference between Hawkinson and Gronk greater than A.J. Brown's points. I guess he has A.J. Brown. He's getting rid of him because he's saying his other receivers are Ridley, Mike Williams, Godwin, and Robinson. So you don't need any more receivers.
I think I'm looking at this. I think it's a fair. He has Gibson, AJ, and Gronk, so he's trying to.
Yeah, I would do that.
Upgrade.
I think you could get a little more for it, but I would do that.
No, I think that's a fair trade and a good trade. Considering you have the other receivers you have. Now, we just talked about Allen Robinson, so you want to be, he should be fine, but you want to be a little bit careful there because he hasn't done a whole lot this year. But as I have him on my roster as well. Yeah, I mean, if you could make that trade and get someone to bite on that, then go for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, because even if A.J. Brown comes back healthy, you still have Julio taking away a lot of those catches. Tannehill seems to be having good chemistry with Julio right now. So, yeah, I think that'll end up being a good trade for you. Gronk, we all know Gronk, and you just don't know from week to week, though, whether or not he's going to see those red zone catches. So,
right.
For now, I think it's a good trade, but see if you can get a little something else for it, too, while you're at it.
Yeah. That noise should have stopped it, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, okay, good. So speaking of trades, Noah, you brought up something I did want to talk about tonight. In our league, I proposed 4 trades today to people, and I thought every one of them was a fair trade offer. So this is what bothers me. It doesn't bother me that people are turning down a trade, but with 4 trade offers out there, all I got was no's. I didn't even get a counter offer.
So hold on, because that's very subjective. What you consider a fair trade offer?
No, everyone
of the 4, tell us what you consider the most fair.
I have to look them up because there were 4 different ones, so I have to look.
Brad proposed a trade to me. I thought it was a very fair trade.
Thank you.
I just wasn't, and I told you that. Yeah. I just wasn't prepared to pull the trigger because I didn't think that the upside was enough for me to do it. And, I was concerned. So, for me, I don't do counters either because maybe it's the fact that I've never considered myself a salesperson. Like, I'm not really good at selling things. So I always like to have a trade proposed to me rather than the other way around. For the only reason is I don't want to insult anybody. I don't want anybody to think that what I'm proposing isn't fair. And quite frankly, I don't want to propose an unfair trade. I want it to help both people. So
what was our trade?
Our trade, you proposed.
So here's another trade that I offered. Okay, and you tell me if you think it's fair or unfair. Okay, and this one might. Yeah, this one might not be this one might be number 4 of the 4 that I offered. Tyler Boyd and Najee Harris I would get, and I would give up Chris Godwin and Javonte Williams. Now,
I would do that.
Now, that's probably I'm just trying to throw out trades there. But out of the 4, that I would say that's probably the 4th. But if you actually look at the numbers, it's actually a pretty fair trade.
I disagree. I absolutely disagree.
So the trade that Brad proposed to me was Hopkins and Javonte Williams for Allen Robinson and Calvin Ridley. And with the way that not Allen Robinson, James Robinson. But that the way that Hopkins has been playing, and we see what's happening with that offense, and more of the receivers are starting to play more and getting more time, and with AJ Green coming on, I think Ridley is the better wide receiver, and I think Ridley's only going to get better. Javonte, I understand he's the rookie that everybody loves, but right now Melvin Gordon is doing such a great job. He looks rejuvenated, and I doubt that they're just going to let him ride the bench by having Javonte out there, and Javonte isn't even catching the ball. They're not even throwing to him as an option out of the backfield. So it's not that it was an unfair trade. I just didn't see enough uptick to make it worth my while at this point. I will continue to, see what happens with Ridley, and Robinson came on this past week. We'll see if that will continue as well.
Yeah.
But at least it was a fair trade. It's the only fair trade I've received this year. I've received a bunch of crap, but that one was actually a fair trade.
So 2020 offered you a trade?
No, I stopped. I don't trade with Keith anymore. I've learned.
What are you talking?
Because I've got to give up my firstborn along with,
Oh, please.
whatever conspiracy theories.
I offer fair trade.
So 2020 is notorious for making a trade and then calling and doing the sales pitch.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Duh. Why not?
But I don't know the other trades because they were either rejected, but I didn't even get one counter. Not okay. Let's talk. Let's do anything. So it's just
the trade. Like this was a good trade, right? That Noah had proposed, right? I mean,
yeah, I think
that could help both sides. If the guy who has Eckler and Hockenson needs a receiver, he's willing to give up Eckler and Hockenson, knowing he's going to get back Gibson and Gronk, and also he's going to now have AJ Brown.
I think that's a very fair.
I think that the guy that Noah's trading with might even get the better part of this deal, but it's more than just looking at the two sides. You've got to look at who else you have. What can you spare? Why does it work for you?
Right.
And will it make your team better? And in this case, we think it will make his team better.
So I think one of the other trades I proposed was getting Darrell Henderson and Devonte Adams, which I know is a big ask, and giving up Hopkins and DeAndre Swift.
It's hard to trade. I mean, there are people that I feel personally are untouchable, and those are your McCaffrey, Cook, Devontae's. Yeah, I think, and Hill. I think those guys are untouchable.
It's a big ask, but, and I may have offered him another running back as well. I can't remember. But Henderson is hurt, and he's going to get hurt again. And Montgomery's on a really bad offense. So he needs running back help.
Who says Henderson's going to get hurt again? Where's that? Where's that from, Crystal Ball?
It's called history.
Yeah.
It's called injury.
We'll see. Eckler, listen, it's been 3 weeks. Eckler hasn't gotten hurt yet. So he's breaking history. We'll see what happens. Anything's possible.
Great.
All right. So we do have on Facebook Messenger, somebody had asked me, is Mac worth a grab just to hold? We talked about that earlier in the running back section. But if you have a spot or you need to put somebody on IR, right, which frees up a spot, you can pick up Mac. But are you dropping somebody like Latavius Murray to get Mac? No.
It depends what else you have.
Right.
No, correct.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you might have a handcuff, I wouldn't give up any good handcuffs, but other handcuffs, like a Roundtree maybe. Who knows? But it all depends. And I probably wouldn't give up Roundtree with Eckler's history.
And we've learned, by the way, right, guys? So far, the two handcuffs have really come in handy and have held up to what they were supposed to do.
Madison
for those handcuffs.
And Hubbard.
So Hubbard and Madison both stepped in when they needed to, and they performed incredibly. So I'm a big advocate of those handcuffs, including Tony Pollard for Ezekiel Elliott. And now we're learning about Roundtree for Eckler. So
exactly. And I'll tell you something. Those are the guys that in the 15th or 16th round, once defense and kicker are wrapped up, that I love to grab, because when everyone's blowing $60, $70, $80 in fab money on these guys, I have Chuba Hubbard in like 4 leagues, just because, after what happened with McCaffrey, and I probably went a little early on that. As a matter of fact, I'm about to offer a trade to the guy that does have Christian McCaffrey, where his starting quarterback is Teddy Bridgewater, and he thought he was going to be able to get by with that for the year. And he's been doing admirably well, but I don't think you can live with Teddy Bridgewater as your starting quarterback. And I'm going to offer him Kirk Cousins and Chuba Hubbard for Kelsey and see if that flies. And that way he locks up that backfield with McCaffrey and Hubbard and gets the number 5 quarterback right now in fantasy. So
let us know how that goes.
Yeah.
All right. So we have time for one more question here from Matt. And Matt, I will tell you, I have never heard of a Vampire League, and we do have time. If you want to give us a call, you don't have to, but if you want to give us a call at 772-800-2899, I would love to talk to you about this, because I'm dying of curiosity, and
I've heard of this. I have heard of this, where you could steal someone from a team. Yes. I don't know.
I've heard it where there's drafts like that, And I've heard of a vampire league, but honestly, like I don't know a lot about it. So I would
Very
like to hear
interesting.
about that as well.
Love to hear about it as well. While
Yes.
you're calling in, really quick, by the way, we didn't do tight ends, and it is important because there's one or two that if they're available that you might want to look at if you have, people that have been underperforming like Higbee or Jared Cook not doing well. If Dalton Schultz is out there, I mean, and this is crazy. In ESPN, he's only rostered in 3.4% of leagues. He had 2 touchdowns last week, but on 7 targets with 6 grabs. And he got targeted 6 times in week 1. I like Dalton Schultz. It's definitely him over Blake Jarwin. If he's available, you might want to look at it. And also, Tyler Conklin last week really stepped up for Minnesota, who was just airing the ball out like crazy. 8 targets, 7 grabs, and 70 yards. Other than that, you can look at, Knox out of Buffalo, but I'm not coming with 3 waiver wire picks from Buffalo this week. So that's just too much. But if Schultz is available, I'd say take a stab at him because he is getting targeted, and that is a high octane passing offense.
And somebody to keep an eye on, you don't necessarily have to pick him up, but somebody to keep an eye on is Evan Ingram. We know how good he can be. It just depends on whether or not he's going to play in that 2 tight end spot that they've kind of changed their offense a little bit. So we'll see what happens moving forward. So I would just put that little, click that little star where you can put him on your watch list or whatever it is. You don't necessarily have to pick him up this week if he's available. Most likely he will not be picked up. But,
I mean, you want to talk about a guy that is literally guaranteed to get injured at some point during the season, and that is Evan Ingram. It's unbelievable. I don't think he's ever had a season without that.
So I don't think Matt's calling in.
Okay,
so let's just talk about his question anyway.
No, he did give us a couple ideas of. So I was reading about one vampire. I looked it up here, and there's one way, but this is what it is. But he says basically, I didn't draft a team as the vampire, made a team off the waivers, and if I beat anyone, I get to snag someone from their team. Okay.
Oh.
So I think it's at the draft.
One person,
one team that's the vampire, and then I guess you get then you have to, I guess, get a team from waivers.
And if you beat anyone, you get this. That is incredible. I love that. Yeah. I want to play that. That's really
build
cool.
your team from waivers. Wow.
After the draft, yeah.
Wow. So it goes back to this question. And it's not going to be as easy to answer without knowing who the other players are. But I will tell you that if you have to pick up one person out of this list, most likely I'm going with Dalvin because of the lack of running backs that are available.
Exactly.
You go with Dalvin because obviously we know what Mahomes can do, right? But can you get by with a Big Ben even, right? Can you get by with somebody, Teddy Bridgewater, who isn't necessarily on somebody's team? Yes, but can you get by with Roundtree as your starting running back? No, you can't.
Well, so let's say, Matt, who is your quarterback now that you do have that you got off waivers on your team? Because
and you're starting running backs as well.
Right.
And yeah, we'd love to know that because I would agree because of the value of running backs that Cook would be the way to go from these 3. So, it certainly would help. We appreciate you said you're going to call in Sunday, so that's cool. We're going to look more into the Vampire League. It is definitely interesting. I was leaning Dalvin as well. I have Tannehill right now. Okay. Someone dropped him after his rough 2 weeks. Yeah, Tannehill is going to be fine.
Especially when A.J. Brown comes back. So
definitely Dalvin.
You're good with Tannehill. Grab Dalvin. And Matt, I want to know what that team looks like at the end of the year. I think that is so cool. Definitely got to look into that one. That sounds more fun than Dynasty, actually.
Yeah, it's very different.
At least for the Vampire, but
like how do you? And I'm wondering, is that a randomized?
It's a random thing. Like you pick. It's whether a number out of a hat or just some kind of random way.
Every time you beat someone in a week, you can take someone from their team.
From their team, right? If you beat them.
The problem is I'm curious. We got to look into this because it might be hard to get into the playoffs. By the time you're there, though, week 14, you could have built up a very nice team, but we haven't had enough wins to make the playoffs. That's interesting.
All right, Matt, we appreciate it. Thank you. Let's see. Week 1 was looking impossible for me to win. Yeah, I can imagine what that must have looked like. But we are going to be here on Sunday morning at 11 a.m. And if you give us a call, Matt, I'd love to hear what your starting team looked like on week 1. I'm very curious. But yeah, we will be going through your who to start, who to bench Sunday morning. As the ticker comes in and we start finding out who's active, who's inactive, we will be announcing that live on the air between 11 and 12 on Sunday morning. So please join us Sunday. We appreciate you listening tonight. We appreciate the comments from Matt, from Noah, from Anthony. Thank you guys, from Kenneth, of course, even Robbie. I appreciate it. So, guys, any final words before we log off for the night?
No, awesome. Just a short 2 days away from football once again. And looking forward to Sunday. Should be a good week. And good to see you guys.
Yep.
All right. Take care, everybody.